This is the Elliott Confidential Podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott. I'm here with Aaron Elliott and Aiden Elliott. We're still in Cape Town. We spent the last week wishing that it was next week, right?
Yes.
We've been doing this countdown like, oh, how many more days do we have before we leave? And now finally we are at the end of the week. We're recording this on Friday and it's broadcasting on, whatever podcasts do they broadcast. They post on Saturday and then we're gone.
Correctamundo.
Gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind, yeah. We have overstayed our welcome here in South Africa, I think. We've been here for 2 months. That's just too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that 2 months in any place is really a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we stayed in Sedona. This was the longest stay we've ever had. We stayed in Sedona for 9 months. By the end of that, we were all ready to get out of there. I mean, we were driving ourselves crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we've stayed in some places for way too long. And I'd say it really depends on the location. But for us, for this particular place, probably about, maybe 2 months too long.
But we were having a conversation about the stages that you go through when you're at a destination. You start with the euphoria of being in a new place and then...
and then culture shock, and then accepting the culture, and then assimilating with it. And after 2 weeks, you kind of get that culture shock, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, you start to try and accept it. And I don't think anyone who's just coming over to a place for tourism reasons should have to experience that. So, if you're going to a place, try not to get into that stage. Don't stay there for too long.
I would say, try not to get past the euphoria stage. If you're in a place and everything is really cool and you're just enjoying, that you're in the euphoria stage, that's really the ideal stage to be in for a vacation. But then once you get into the assimilation stage, you're not going on vacation to assimilate. You're going just to experience the new place and maybe see some sights.
Yeah.
So for South Africa, I think 2 weeks is an ideal amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a week and a half, but 2 months is just way too long.
Way too long. And the only reason why we're doing this is just because we like to write a lot about every place that we go to. And I think now that we've been here for 2 months, and actually we've been in a lot of other places before this place for a lot longer, we've kind of realized, probably if you're writing towards a touristy audience, an audience that's trying to go to places for a vacation, we should probably stay as long as they're going to stay.
Yeah, I think a month is about our limit now.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to stay anywhere for more than a month.
Yeah, we're
just skip around. Oh, so we should talk about where our next place is. We are going from here we have a couple of days in the winelands of South Africa, of the Western Cape, in a place called Paarl.
Mm.
And then we are taking a long overnight flight to... Does anyone want to do the big reveal?
Turkey.
Istanbul.
Constantinople. Named after me.
Thank you, Aiden. Yeah. We're going to be in... I almost said Constantinople. We're going to be in Istanbul late next week. And I am really excited because I've never been there, and I know you guys haven't either. So we are going to be there for a couple of weeks, and we're going to explore several different parts of the country.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible.
Are there any parts that you guys are looking forward to in particular?
Yeah, I like the part where we go to Turkey.
Okay.
That's going to be fun.
Yes, any part of Turkey I meant.
I think probably the funnest part, other than just going to Turkey, would be restarting the Ottoman Empire. I'm going to go to the government and ask them about that.
Do a little conquest while you're there?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. How about you, Aaron? Any places?
That's all I know about Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, but, continue.
Yeah, I don't know much about Turkey, unfortunately, so I think that we're just going to have to discover it while we're there. I think that that's mainly because me looking at Wiki Voyage and all of those, it doesn't really say very much. It just, Turkey is a very historical place. I guess it's kind of like going to Rome. It's like, what exactly are you going there for? Oh, you can see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You can see
Okay, it's not called
Pizza.
pizza.
It's not pizza. It's pizza.
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
in Rome. Rome is not.
No, Ligia.
I know it's not in Rome.
I'm
I'm
going to
talking
have to
about
take
Italy.
you guys to Italy and
Italia.
show you.
No,
Italy.
it's like,
Oh,
okay,
wait,
I'm going to
I'm
Rome.
talking
I'm
with
going to
my
see
hands
the
here.
Colosseum. Yeah, I think that I was trying to, the point I was trying to make is like, you go to Italy and you're like, what do you want to see in Italy? There's a lot to see in Italy, a lot of culture. I think that no one goes there just for one reason. So in that case, I'm
that's a
going
very
to use that
diplomatic answer.
I'm going to use that to mask my ignorance of Turkey.
Well, and in fairness, I've been the one who has handled most of the planning, and so you guys don't really. I mean, you've seen the itinerary, but you haven't really had a chance to
Quite
really
ambitious.
study it.
Quite
It is
ambitious.
very ambitious, yes. And so I'm looking forward to actually talking about that as we go along in this podcast. We should talk though about what happens when you get bored, because I think the last week has been really difficult for us, because we actually normally we go out and explore, and for the last week we haven't even really we haven't left the V&A waterfront area. There's been a couple of reasons why we haven't done that. It got really rainy, so fall started here. And so it was, one day it got very, very rainy and you couldn't really walk. We did anyway, and we got soaked, and we said, no, I'm not going to do that again. And then the other thing is just security, where that whole walk along the waterfront
To Sea Point
is, there's a lot of people there, but there's also, you don't always feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So we just decided not to do that.
Yeah.
And that meant that we were stuck inside this bubble, and we were going really stir crazy too.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things is when you stay in a place for way too long, as we have, unfortunately, you start to realize that there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to do. And unfortunately, what that means is that over time, you start limiting yourself more and more, and eventually you end up where we are, where basically we only walk in the mall now.
Yeah. And we're just like on looking at the clock going, when do we leave?
Yeah, exactly.
And so tomorrow is basically our last day here. And I think that if you told me that I could leave now, I would pack and I'd be out of here.
But you have a few options to keep yourself busy. Like, I like to hit my head against the wall.
Okay.
There's also they have really uniquely shaped outlets here, so I try to find objects to stick in them.
Okay.
And it's always a surprise when you get a connection.
Yeah.
And then you could also eat. You can sleep.
But it's a good question though is, what do you do if you are on vacation or you're traveling and you get really bored with where you are and you say, ooh, I shouldn't have come here. You're listening to the LA Confidential podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, here with Aiden Elliott and Aaron Elliott.
Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing is I've been using this experience of boredom to really help me sort of get my life together. And so I think that for me, I've been using all this excess time to study and maybe advance my career, do some applications for school. Because surprisingly, my brother is going to end up in graduate school before me because of his pre-planning.
Yeah.
And so I'm still looking for graduate school. He's not.
I will say that I went to graduate school directly out of college. I did not take a break. And I think that it would have probably been a really good idea if I had taken some time off. And you guys did. You've taken 6 months off, and Aaron will have taken at least 9 months off. Before we sign off, I wanted to talk about homesickness, because we've had, in our boredom here, we have had several conversations about the fact that we miss being in the United States. We really miss home.
Yeah.
But then, oddly enough, when we say, well, where's home? We go, oh, I don't know. It's just because we've lived in so many places. So I wanted to ask, when you think of home, where do you think of, and what makes you homesick?
Oh, I would say one of the things I really love about the U.S. is that you can go anywhere you want in the U.S. You can drive anywhere. I love driving through the United States. I love the fact that, if you don't like where you are, you're probably less than an hour away from another place that's equally interesting. It is a little bit isolating when you don't have a car, don't know how to drive. Now, another thing that I like is also that in the United States, there are just certain traditions that you sort of take them for granted when they're there, but when they're not there, you really feel it. Like, for example, a good farmer's market. Now, when we were in Portugal, there's no such thing. But, here in South Africa, we realized that there was a farmer's market, and it has been one of the highlights of our week. Like every
If not
week,
the highlight.
if not the highlight,
Yeah.
exactly.
They got good peanut butter smoothies,
Yeah.
bows and samosas and
Yep.
pizza. Oh my god, the Napolitan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Neapolitan, yes.
Neapolitan. I can't believe I forgot that, because we would go to Prado's all the time in Orlando, which has the best, if you don't know, the best Neapolitan pizza in Orlando. Sidetracked a little bit, but oh my goodness. That Neapolitan pizza at that market was a highlight.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned the food, because I think that when I think of being back in the States, I think of some of the very best meals that we've had. Like when we were in Sedona, we had a couple of places that we always went to.
Pizza Lisa.
There's a place
Oh
called
my
Pizza
God.
Lisa that
Pizza
made
Lisa.
really good, and also Neapolitan pizza. So they had that oven where it would just be made very quickly.
And we would have it with the kombucha.
And there, yes, from the farmer's
From
market,
the
there was
farmer's
some
market.
kombucha.
Yeah. What was it called? Alinka.
Alinka.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so. Those are such good memories. I mean, then we would hike on. What was it called? It was the one
Yes,
that had
Teacup.
Teacup. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
an infinite ways to get up to the top that weren't the main trail. It was amazing.
You and your sister would walk up there all the time, and we would join you sometimes.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, even though we were in Sedona for a long time. And I should say the reason that we were in Sedona for that long was because we had
COVID-19.
this terrible pandemic going on, and I wanted to keep you guys as safe as possible. So we did take a couple of trips into Phoenix. We spent some weekends in Phoenix while we were there, and we took some road trips too. We went up to Flagstaff and things like that. But it was a fairly quiet 8 or 9 months for us, and then we did a road trip that started exactly 1 year ago, where we went all the way around the United States, dropped your sister off in New York, and then kept going. Or maybe she dropped herself off. Anyway.
But I have to say, another really fun experience we had in terms of food, one of the things that I really miss is, of course, bread. Now, European bread is good, but in the United States, we take it for granted that we even have good bread. Like, you're not going to find, if you like Ezekiel bread, you're not going to find Ezekiel bread here. It's like, screw that. No. Most places, they're not at the same level at the United States. There's a place in Spokane where our uncle is called the Grain Shed.
The Grain Shed.
And the
yeah.
Grain Shed has the very best bread ever. And no one can argue that.
Even
I
Iden
know.
likes that bread.
I love the bread there, and it's so sad that you have to walk through like a layer of crackheads to get to it.
No, you don't. You don't.
No,
You
because
don't have to do that.
It's very weird.
If you take the shortcut, you have to walk through a bad part
yeah, I
of
know.
town. But if you go the long way, you don't.
But I'm lazy. That's the only route I take. But it's so weird in Spokane, because there's very specific areas where you find very interesting personalities, and then everywhere else it is squeaky clean. And sadly, to get to certain places that are very good, like have really great food, and also if you're lazy and you want to take the shortcut, you got to pass through those areas.
Yeah. Well, I have to say the walk to Grain Shed was worth it every time. If you go early in the morning, the bread is still warm, and then you can kind of get it in a bag and take it back, and it's still warm when you get home.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the way to eat bread.
And if you go to the Grain Shed, if you take our advice, make sure to get it with seeds, not without seeds, because the seeds
yeah.
make it taste like they added bacon to it.
Oh yeah, and also they can make that bread into avocado toast. We would eat that on the way back.
Oh, yes. The avocado toast they had was very good. Or as they would call it here in South Africa, avo toast.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've had some real kind of retrospective moments in the last week or so. And I think that's what happens when you get bored and anxious to leave. And now we're on our way out. And I have to say, the one thing that's been on my mind a lot is just the normal pre-trip anxiety. Like in the last 24 hours, I've started to feel a little bit more nervous about getting out, and will we still have a room where we're going? Are they going to know who we are? Can we get a ride to the next hotel? Is the plane going to take off on time? These are little things that you can't control. It's not possible to control them, but you worry about them because that's just what you do. You worry.
Yeah, I think that there are things that, of course, you're going to worry about. Like, I was scouring through the house yesterday trying to find our bags. We had lost 2 bags, and then I found them because they had just been misplaced. But basically, there are things like that. Like, am I going to remember everything that I brought with me? Have I acquired too many things? While we were here, we've acquired quite many bags. There's this grocery store called Woolworths, and every time we went there...
Oh, those bags are staying here.
Yeah.
There's no way we're taking those.
They gave us these bags.
Well, we had to buy them.
We had to buy them.
We also have
Yeah.
sockets. We've got these adapters here that...
I'm not bringing those. No.
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 Like we
I don't think
we would
they
never
need
have
to
to use
keep
them again.
No, well, those will work with European. I think I might take 1 or 2.
Oh, no, not those
No,
adapters.
not those
I'm
ones.
talking about the ones for the South Africa.
Sorry, we're looking
Oh,
at
yeah, no.
multiple different
Right.
adapters here.
Yeah, no, those
Right.
ones we're
Yeah.
gonna keep with us. But you
People
know,
keep sending us adapters.
Or we keep buying them. We had to buy a couple of them here.
yeah.
Anyway, we're excited about going, and I'm excited about next week because things are going to start picking up for us, and we will have a lot of new things to report from Parl and then from Istanbul. I'm Christopher Elliott, and I'm so glad that you listened to this podcast, Elliott Confidential, with Aiden Elliott and Aaron Elliott. Have a great week, everyone.
Yes, have a great week. Love you.